rabbinic law. I'm sorry, rabbinic law. It's not in the Torah. It's not in the Torah. How could you say you commanded us? It's post. It's post. It's going to make sure in case someone's trying to call us. It's post the Torah was given, right? The holiday of Hanukkah came out post the Torah was given. Since the holiday of Hanukkah post the Torah was given, how can you say and God commanded us, right? That was what was our Gemara was discussing. So again, the Gemara was discussing how do we have a right to say a blessing on a rabbinic mitzvah came post the Torah was given. How can we say the statement Asher Kedeshanu? You say with your mitzvah, with your commandments, with His commandments, v'tzivanu, and commanded us. Where did God command us? So the Gemara said Hashem commanded us where the Torah says, don't turn away from what the rabbis tell you. That's how God commanded us. So the Gemara said, if that's the case, that on rabbinic mitzvot you have to go say a bracha. So, but we see it's not true because from the case of Demai, right? We said there's a rabbinic mitzvah if you buy food from an uneducated Jew. The rabbis say that the rabbis are concerned there's a minority. Good morning, Ralph.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. You look so good, Ralph. In the car with his sunglasses driving to the synagogue. The rabbi said that if you buy food from an uneducated Jew, we are concerned that maybe the uneducated Jew did not take off the maaseh, the tithe, the food that goes to Mr. B'tesh, and therefore, and if he did not take off morning asaf, if he did not take off the maaser, then you would be, it's tevel, it's forbidden to eat that food. So in order to ensure that you're eating kosher food, because kosher does not only mean if the food is animal, food that an animal doesn't have a split hoof, if tithe was not taken off, it's also not kosher for you to eat. So the Gemara says that so the rabbi said you have to take off, separate the tithe, just like in morning Simon, to separate the tithe just in case it did not take off the maaser. But the Gemara also proved there's no bracha. There's no bracha on the separating of that maaser, that tithe that you would do when you buy the food from an uneducated Jew, because the Gemara said you can even separate it when you're not dressed properly. When you're not, and you can, if you're not dressed properly, you won't be able to say the blessing. So you can't say a blessing in front of nakedness. So therefore, if you're able to say the blessing, if you're able to do the action, now if there would be a blessing accompanied with the action of the separating, so then you would not be able to do the separating with not being able to make the blessing. You have to be able to make the blessing. You have to be able to go ahead and get dressed. The fact that you can technically separate it without getting dressed or whatever, being dressed properly, shows you there's no blessing accompanied by it. Okay, so the Gemara has proven that there's no blessing that accompanies the separating of the food that you bought from an uneducated Jew. So the Gemara is thinking, why not? Why is there no blessing? Why is no blessing on this mitzvah? Because you can't say the blessing. You commanded us. You don't say the word on a rabbinic law. You wouldn't say the blessing. You wouldn't say the statement that you commanded us. So the Gemara is now questioning the statement that the other rabbi said that when it comes to lighting Hanukkah candles, before you light the Hanukkah candles, you have to say a blessing. If it's true, you have to say a blessing before you light Hanukkah candles, then you have to say a blessing before you separate the tithe from the food that you bought from the uneducated Jew. And that was the Gemara's question. So yesterday, the Gemara, we offered one answer. The Gemara said, listen, when there's a mitzvah, a rabbinic mitzvah, where the rabbis tell us something, the rabbis tell us, I want you to do a certain mitzvah, and it's a mitzvah. I want you to light the Hanukkah menorah. So it's not a mitzvah. It's not a rabbinic law that's based on doubt. It's based on actual knowing. Today is the holiday of Hanukkah. We're celebrating the great miracle of the past, and now we're celebrating the great miracle of the past. You need to say a blessing on this rabbinic enactment that was made. But the separating of the tithes from the food from the you bought from an uneducated Jew is all about doubt. The rabbi is telling us to do this because of a doubt, and the doubt maybe the person you bought from did not separate the tithe. So since it's the whole mitzvah is not, it's about doubt. It's not because we know you really something that you really have to do without meaning. It's not something that you know has to be done. There's something that this is a mitzvah that you know this is something that needs to be done. It needs to be done here because of doubt. Out of doubt, that the rabbis did not place a blessing, the Gemara is saying, on something that you're doing out of doubt. Because in a certain sense, maybe it doesn't have to be done at all. Because maybe it was already tithe. Now you have to do it because the rabbis are concerned. But a type of action that you're doing just to protect, just in case, that type of thing, the rabbis did not say you say a blessing on such an act. But in a certain sense, maybe the act was not even necessary to be done. That's what the Gemara, is it clear, everybody? That type of situation, the Gemara says, Rabbi says, a mitzvah that the rabbis enacted in such a situation because of a doubt, because they want to protect something, because we don't know, because if we would know that the tithes were separated, you wouldn't need to do this, the whole thing. There wouldn't be a need for this whole action. Then they don't require a blessing for such a thing. Now, so the Gemara challenges this. This is where we're up to today in the Gemara. We are on 23a3 on the right side. 23a3. The Gemara says, but we all know when it comes to, we just had the holiday of Shavuot, not so long ago. I mean, a month or whatever. What happened in the holiday of Shavuot? We had 2 days of Shavuot, right? In the land of Israel, they had 1 day of Shavuot, right? Or the last days of Pesach, right? In Israel, there's 1 day for the last days. But here in America, outside of Israel, we have 2 days of Yom Tov. Now, what's the idea of the second day of Yom Tov? And what do we do on the second day of Yom Tov? We keep both days of Yom Tov. We say a bracha. We say kiddush on Yom Tov Sheni. We say kiddush. We light the candles of Yom Tov. We say a bracha on the candles. We say kiddush. But the whole reason why they kept the Yom Tov Sheni was because there was a doubt. The question was, when was the Yom Tov? Because as you know, a Jewish month has 29 days or 30 days. If it has 29 days, so let's say when the Torah says, let's use the case of Pesach. Torah says the 15th day of the month, of the first month of the year, the first Jewish month, which is Nisan, so we'll call it 15th day of the month of Nisan, is the holiday of Pesach. Now, the question is, okay, the 15th of the month is a holiday. So Rosh Chodesh Nisan, from Rosh Chodesh, the first of the month, you count to 15. The 15th will be the holiday. But when is Rosh Chodesh Nisan? Is Rosh Chodesh Nisan the day 30 of the previous month had 29 days? Adar had 29, and Nisan is day 30, is the first of the month. Or did Adar, the previous month, have 30 days, and therefore the first day of the month is day 31? Based on whatever Rosh Chodesh is, the 15th day of the month will be calculated. So they used to in Israel. So how did they know when Rosh Chodesh was? So they had witnesses would come and they would declare they saw the moon, and based on that, then they knew when the first day of the month was. So in Israel, they declared when the first day of the month was, and the word got out within 2 weeks. The word got out throughout the inland of Israel when was Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, in Israel, they had no problem of knowing the previous month was a 30-day month, a 29-day month. Therefore, they will be able to know when the holiday of Pesach is. But if you want to get the word out to Czechoslovakia, if you want to get the word out to other parts of the world, that takes time. Traveling, it's not an instant push of a button that you know that, okay, everybody knows when Rosh Chodesh was. And therefore, many places the word did not reach them on time, depending on traveling situations, and therefore they weren't sure when is the first day of Pesach. Is the first day of Pesach this day or it's the next day, based on when they declare Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, they kept 2 days out of doubt, and therefore they didn't do work for those 2 days. So they didn't know if today's the holiday or tomorrow's the holiday. Okay, there's certain things that we're allowed to do on Yom Tov. We're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. There's a lot of but we can't write on Yom Tov, right? We can't. There are certain things we can't plow. We can't plant. There are certain things that we can't do. So they kept those laws. And then even now that we have a calendar, and we're no longer using witnesses and the court to declare when Rosh Chodesh is, the rabbis said that we still keep the second day of Yom Tov outside of Israel, because we still keep that custom of having that second day. And what do? We say a blessing. We say a blessing on Yom Tov Sheni. We say Kiddush both the first night of Yom Tov, the second night of Yom Tov. But the whole enactment was out of doubt, because they weren't sure which day is Yom Tov. And yet, even when the rabbis instituted something out of doubt, they still say you have to go say a bracha. So you just told me a moment ago that separating the tithes when you bought something for an uneducated Jew, is a mitzvah that's done out of doubt, and out of doubt, the rabbis did not institute a blessing. Well, we see a mitzvah that's done out of doubt, which is the Yom Tov Sheni, but the question of when was Yom Tov. And yet we go ahead and we say a bracha, we say a blessing. That is the Gemara's question. I'll just read to you what it said over here, that the rabbis have, even though now that we don't use the witnesses, and we don't have the doubt today like we had today, but nevertheless, because today we know we have the calendar, we know which is really the first day of the holiday, which is the second day of the holiday, but we still keep, the rabbis say, people outside of Israel should follow the way they did in the past, to keep 2 days of Yom Tov as if they are in doubt, And the rabbis say, you say a blessing. So now, take care. Have a great day. All the best. About to daven, about to pray. So the Gemara says, so we see you do say a blessing on something which is out of doubt. Is that clear, Adam, what the Gemara's question is? Simon? Asaf? So the Gemara says, Hatam, you know why the rabbis say on Yom Tov Sheni, we have to treat it with all the blessings. We say Kiddush on the second day of Yom Tov, even though it was only enacted because there was a time of doubt. Because if you wouldn't say Kiddush, people would not respect it. If you wouldn't treat the second day of Yom Tov, if in America we would say first day of Yom Tov you say Kiddush, and the second night of Yom Tov you don't say Kiddush. First day of Yom Tov you'll light candles with the blessing. The second day of Yom Tov, if we would say you don't like the blessing with the candle with a blessing, people would not respect the day. People will not take it serious like the first day of Yom Tov. Even today, we're suffering that people don't appreciate having 2 days of Yom Tov outside the land of Israel. You have people that feel that, whatever they're, people you can have a discussion. Why is there a need today for Yom Tov Sheni, for the second day of Yom Tov? And you can discuss and it can be explained. But the mindset has, what you say? Yom Tov go, but the mindset needs to be, if that's what the rabbi said, then we have to embrace it. We have to love it. We have to appreciate it. But the Gemara, a couple of thousand years ago, almost, they were concerned that people, if you want to treat it, if you wouldn't say a blessing on it, people will not respect it. And therefore, they won't keep the laws of it. Therefore, that's why this is an exception to the rule. Really, if you are a rabbinic mitzvah that's done out of doubt, they would not place a blessing. Therefore, Dmai, separating the food ties from the food that you bought from an uneducated Jew, no blessing. But this particular mitzvah, they were afraid that people would not respect if you would not say a blessing on it. And therefore, the Gemara says, people should come to respect it. So therefore, sometimes the rabbis would place a blessing on something which really they would rather not. But it's for the better. That they'll say, we're going to enact the blessing in order to ensure people keep the laws of the second day of Yom Tov. Rava disagrees. Rava says, even a mitzvah, if the rabbis enacted this mitzvah and they said this enactment that you need to do it, even if it's out of doubt, you should really say a blessing. And therefore, Yom Tov Sheni, it's a rabbinic enactment, you say a blessing, no question about it. So why by the demai? Why by the tithe that we say you don't, when you buy the food from an uneducated Jew, you have to separate this, you don't have to say a blessing? The majority of the Jewish community take off Maaseh. So what does that mean? So Rashi says very beautifully. We have a rule, and I'll elaborate on it. We have a rule called Acharei Rabim Lahato. You go after the majority, right? It's a very big rule in Judaism. You have court, you go after the majority, and not only by court, but other issues. If you have, technically on a Torah level, you have 3 pieces of meat, 2 are kosher, one's not, and they got mixed together, and they weren't cooked together. So on a Torah level, you would be able to eat all 3 pieces of meat because there's a majority. 2 are kosher, 1 is not. They weren't mixed. There's no flavoring that was mixed together. So you would be able to eat it because you go for the majority, right? Now, it's based on the fact that here majority of the uneducated Jews take off some tithes, means there's no safek, there's no doubt here, because we have a ruling that tells us there's no doubt. When you have a majority, the majority wins. It's not a doubt. In fact, there's a minority that says otherwise. But in the famous case, we have 10 stores. 9 stores sells kosher, 1 store sells not kosher. You find a piece of meat in front of one of the 10 stores. So you say, if you find a piece of meat, you say most probably the meat came from the kosher store. Majority is 9, even if technically the majority should be even 6. If the majority kosher stores, technically you would be able to. I'm not saying you should eat, but it would sound like you should be able to eat it. We have a ruling that says there's no doubt here. Because the ruling is you go after the majority. Rabbi, what do I got to do here? Go after the majority. Majority is kosher. There's a law that you can't marry someone from, let's say, a lady can't marry someone from Ammon, from Moab. The Torah says you can't marry, even if meaning they converted to Judaism, they can't. A Jew from birth can't marry a male from Ammon, a male from Moab. Now, a guy comes to, someone comes to a rabbi. He's a convert, and he wants to marry this Jewish girl from birth. She's Jewish from birth, and can marry this person. So we say now all the converts. Let's say the Gemara says there was a king Sancheriv that mixed up the nations of the world. So because he mixed up the nations of the world, any person that comes in front of you, you say they come from the majority. The majority of the world is not Ammon, is not Moab, and therefore there's no restriction for me to marry that person who converted, because you go after the majority. The majority takes away the doubt, meaning the majority says that is the rule. That's how you follow. When the court gives a ruling based on majority, that's it. In fact, there's a minority opinion. Doesn't make it a doubt. We go after the majority. That's what the Gemara is saying over here also. Really, according to law, there's no need at all to separate from this food that you bought from the uneducated Jews, because majority do take off maaseh. So it's not a real need, a real doubt. It's more of a stringency. See, a stringency is different than, a doubt means, I don't know if it's 50-50, it was a real doubt. Stringency here means that really there's no real doubt. Just out of stringency, the rabbis say you should do it. So when something is done out of stringency, there the rabbis didn't place a blessing. When something is really out of doubt, let's say the story was with Yom Tov Sheni, the second day of Yom Tov, it was a real doubt. Was this day the holiday, that day the holiday? So therefore it was done, and therefore the rabbis continued that we should continue doing that. But since it was done originally, it was done out of doubt, therefore you have to go ahead and say a blessing. But here, it's not really doubt, it's really more of a stringency. That's what the Gemara says. Rov Ameres Amaisin. Therefore, the Gemara says you can't compare those two cases. Okay. Now, the Amar of Huna. Now we're getting to another piece of Gemara. Amar of Huna. Now we're getting back to the Hanukkah. Amar of Huna. You have a courtyard. And as you know, you have a house, and the houses open up to the courtyard. And here we have a courtyard that has two entranceways. That one of the houses, let's say you have one of the houses, and the Rashi says, what's the case talking about? Rashi says he learns that they have a house. Morning. The minute is 8:30. Next one is 8:30. Sunday schedule. You're welcome. We'll take you here, by the way, if you want, unless you want to do some other things. Now, a courtyard that has two entranceways. You have a house, and you have a house that opens up to the courtyard. And the house has two entranceways that open up to the courtyard. Now, we know you have you usually have a house and you have a courtyard in front of the house. But you have, let's say your house opens up, you have an entranceway in the front of the house, and you have an entranceway on the side of the house. That's one way to explain. Or you have two entranceways on the same side, on the same opening up into the courtyard. So now the question is, how many candles do I need to have a menorah on each entranceway? I'm one person. Now, you need a mezuzah at your entranceway going in. But here, it's not a mezuzah story. This is a story of menorah. And really, the law is your house needs one menorah. The Torah says you have to have one candle for your house. Or not Torah. The rabbi said, but here, you might need to have a separate candle for each entranceway. Why? Because we're concerned about the people outside. If they see you have a menorah on this entranceway to your house, and you don't have a menorah on the other entranceway to the house, so the Gemara is going to say, what is the concern? What is the issue? So the Gemara says, if you have two entranceways, you need to have a candle burning, a menorah on each of the entranceways, of the multiple entranceways that go into your house. So according to Rashi, the way he understands, that you would put the menorah right outside your house, outside your door. So you have to put outside the door, this door and outside that door. So the Gemara says, Amar Rava. Rava now clarifies this point. Lo Amaran Ella Mishtei Ruchot. That's only if the entranceways are on two different sides of the house. But if they are, and therefore you would have to go ahead and have a menorah on each side of if they're both on the east side or the west side or the north side, if they're both on the same side, then you don't need to light them both. You could just light one right outside your door of your house that goes into that courtyard. That's enough. You don't have to do it on both doors. Everyone see if they're both on the east side, both entranceways on the east side, or both on the west side, you only have to do one. Now the one wants to know what's the issue. How do we explain the difference between where are the entranceways to your house? Why is there a difference if it's on both sides or both on the same side or not on the same side? Like Rashi says, two different sides. If it's two different sides, let's say north and east, then you need two different. Each one needs a menorah. So the Gemara says, my time. If the reason is, we are now turning the page, right? Now in Chav 23, A4. If the concern that we're worried about, people are going to suspect if they pass by your house and they only see a menorah on one entranceway to your house, and they don't see the menorah on the other entranceway to your house, they're going to think that what you're not lighting the, you're not doing the mitzvah of Hanukkah. You don't want to look like a Jew. You don't want to look like you don't keep mitzvot. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, chashada daman, are you worried about people from the city, from the neighborhood, the local residents? Are you looking or worried about the people that are just from outside the city that are passing by? If the concern is that the people, you ever travel to other neighborhoods during Hanukkah? Yeah, you see the Hanukkah menorahs. You're not from the neighborhood. Not everybody that travels in the neighborhood are people from the neighborhood, right? People from outside come in. If you're worried about the people from the passes by, from other cities that might pass by, they don't know. And now, what's the difference between the people of the city and other people? The people in the city, they know how many, what is it, a one family house, two family houses? They know if the houses are made for one family or two families. Other people, other cities, they don't know. Is it two families in this house or is it two family houses? This one family house. How many people live in these houses? So you go to certain neighborhoods, they build big houses, right? But it's really only really for one family. But really two families can live in them. So if you're worried about the people that pass by that they don't know it's a one family house, and if they see an entranceway on the north and the east side, they might think it's and it's only one menorah on one side. They're going to say it's a two family house. Two families live there, and they're not lighting the menorah. So even if it's on the same side, two entranceways on the same side, they might say there's two families living in the house. One entranceway is for this family, one for that family, and they're not lighting menorah. So what's the difference where the entranceway is? If the concern is the people outside the city, there should be a concern even if they're both on the same side. And if it's regarding the people in the city, even if it's on two different sides, on this side and this side, they know it's a one family house. So therefore there's only need for one menorah. That's what the Gemara says. If you're worried about the people that pass by from the outside, tourists, so to speak, our next city, neighboring city, other cities, so then even if they're both on the same side, both entranceways, people will think there's two different families in, and there's only one menorah on one entranceway, so they're going to suspect that people are not keeping the mitzvah. If you're concerned about the people from the city itself, that the city you live in, they might go ahead and think you're only having on one. You're not keeping the mitzvah. Why would they be concerned? They know this is only a one family house. Even if you have entranceways on different sides of the house, they know this is a one family house. So if you have a menorah on one entranceway, even though it's on different sides, not on the same side, they will know that you only need one menorah. They're not going to suspect that you're not keeping the mitzvah. That's the Gemara. You should not need, even if it's on two different sides. Is that clear? What the Gemara is saying? So the Gemara answers like this. The Gemara says, by the way, there is a lesson that we see here from the Gemara. How important is that you should not look like we don't keep mitzvot, right? We don't want to do something in a way that people think we're not keeping the mitzvah. Therefore, so the Gemara is saying, but okay, we accept that, but who are you worried about? People in the city or people outside? So, and therefore, based on each situation, good morning would be. So, but why is there a difference in this side or that side? That's what the Gemara wants to understand. So the Gemara answers like this: La'olam mishum chashadad b'nei mata. We're worried about the people of that city, and the reason why we're not worried about the other cities is because nighttime people don't travel so much from other cities into the city. Remember, there was no Con Edison, so who was looking? Now your menorah is on at night. People should see it. Who's out in the streets at night? Neighboring people. people from other neighborhoods are not generally traveling through the city at night. It says you should always, it's good to go out when there's light and come back when there's light. So therefore, you don't have to worry about the people from the other cities, what they're going to think. That they're going to think it's a two-family house. No, it's only the worry. They don't have to worry about that. So, because if you have to worry about them, the Gemara says, then you should have to have, even if they're both entranceways is on the same side, both on the east, you should have a separate menorah for each entranceway, because if the people in other cities will think it's a two-family house. But we're not worried about that. That's not the concern. But what's the concern? The Gemara says, the concern of the people of your city, where you live. You live in the east side, west side, worried about those people. But they all know it's a one-family house. If they all know it's a one-family house, so why should you need a menorah on both sides? Even if it's two different entranceways, two different sides, not on the same side, north and east. So the Gemara says, "Zimnan de mechafei bahai v'lechafei bahai." Sometimes the people they only go to this particular side, and they don't go to the other side. V'amri, and there's a concern. V'amri, and they say, "Kehechi de bahai." The same way there's no menorah on this side of the house. They say on the other side of the house, meaning if they're all on the same side, if the menorah is all on the same side, so the entranceways are on the same side, so then if they see it's on the same side, they all know, they see you have a menorah, they all know it's a one-family house. So there's no need to light on if the only entranceways are on the front of the house, they know it's a one-family house, just light on one entranceway right outside the door of the house. You don't need to light on the other entrance on the door, because everybody knows it's a one-family house. So you only need one menorah. But that's true if you have one menorah in front of your house, and both entranceways are in front of your house. But if there's an entranceway here, and an entranceway over here, and sometimes the people are only past this side, so they're not going to see a menorah. They don't see here a menorah. And then there's a concern. They say if there's no menorah here, maybe he's not putting a menorah on the other side. And therefore, we're concerned about that. And therefore, because we're concerned about that, therefore you should light that owner of the house will light on this side and on this side. So for the people from the city that are only passing by on this side, they won't come to say that maybe the same way you're not lighting here, you're not lighting over there. Now, you can ask the question, what was bothering me is, why would the people suspect that you're not putting it on the other side? They know it's a one-family house. They know it's there's multiple entranceways of the house. But why should there be such a concern? That the same way I did not light the menorah over here, I didn't light on the. Why should they suspect I'm not lighting the menorah on the other side of the house? Why should they suspect that I'm not a card, whatever expression, Jew? That I'm not a Jew that's following the laws. The fact that they don't see a menorah on this side of the house, they know there's another entranceway on the other side of the house. Why should they come to that conclusion? The Gemara, it says also, let's say a town that has only one shul and one minyan at a certain time. So it says you shouldn't walk past the entranceway of that shul during the time that they're davening, because it looks like you're not interested in going to shul. Looks like you're not a card holding member. Like you're not paying, you're not following the laws of the town, the law of going to shul, because this is shul time, prime time, game time, the real game, and you're not in it. But if there's another way to go to the shul, So if you could pass the shul on this side, because people will say maybe you're going in and you're going to go on the other side. You're entering the shul on the other side. So when it comes to shul, we say we're not afraid. People are going to say you're not coming on this side. You're not coming this side. Probably not going on the other side. We say no. People are not going to suspect that. But when it comes to menorah, we say that people are going to say the same way. There's no menorah over here. There's no menorah on the other side. Why are we more concerned? Why would people be more suspicious of the person when it comes to menorah more than when it comes to the davening? So this is a question with different answers that they talk about. One answer is that, which fits good for the Ashkenaz custom. The Ashkenaz custom is that every person of the house lights the menorah. So there's something lit connecting to every person of the house. Now, based on that, so if you have and let's say the average home has more than one person, or maybe it's a family that has there's children in the house. So how would they light the menorahs in those days? If a person has Ashkenaz and they have children, and the children are also going to light. There's going to be something. So they would light. You would want to publicize the miracle. So you would light at this entranceway, and you would light at that entranceway. Right? You would not. You want people to be able to see the menorah traveling on this side of the street, traveling on the other side of the right. So therefore, you would place a candle here and a candle there. The fact that you don't have the candle on this side, so the people are going to say, if you don't have a candle on this side, that means you're not a person who's beautifying the mitzvah, right? There's something called hidur mitzvah. The idea that technically the basic law is one candle for the house every night. That's beautification of the mitzvah. Then the Gemara talks about the highest level is every night you add another candle. But the question is how to understand that case. How do you do that? Is it that every person has to light and plus there's a candle added every night? Or is it there's one menorah and it's added every candle every night? But if you hold that there's an idea that every person lights the menorah, so then you would go ahead and have a menorah here and a menorah there. Because that way you're better publicizing the miracle. Now, if you're not that type of person that's going out of your way to beautify the mitzvah of the menorah, so that people will say the same way you're not beautifying the mitzvah of menorah, you're not from the mahadrin, you're not from the people that are going the extra mile for the mitzvah. So maybe you're also not even careful about the mitzvah itself. When you show that you're not the person who is beautifying the mitzvah by having it for each member of the house, so maybe you also are not even doing a menorah at all. Therefore, there's more of a concern that people might suspect that you're not lighting the menorah on the other side. So there are other answers that are given as well, but we'll leave with that answer. Okay, I want to wish everyone a beautiful day, and therefore, when people walk into a McDonald's to buy a soda, that's a mistake. But if you walk into McDonald's and buy a soda, it looks like you're buying something that's not kosher. You have to be more sensitive. People have to be sensitive to this. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day. The minyan is lamala. 8:30 lamala. Hayom is because July 4th. It's Shmona v'chetzi lamala. You too. You beautiful Shabbat. Sunday gamke. Sunday is Sheva v'chetzi, Shmona v'chetzi. And Monday, Yom Sheni, then back to the old schedule. Have a great day, everybody.